A polar bear slips past the warped glass, 1,200 pounds condensed to a shadow, close enough to fog the pane with breath that steams in the minus 40 degrees air. She freezes mid-step. For a beat, she holds herself, so still the house seems to hold its breath around her. Only the low rumble of a diesel engine idles near the harbor, where flare guns rest in truck beds. She tests the lock with her elbow and eases the door open just a fraction. The cold rushes in, and with it a sharp crack. A deterrent shell. The flare's echo rolls across the bay like thunder caught in ice, and the hush that follows feels louder than the shot itself. She glances down. Tracks. Wide. Spaced. Deep. Lead straight toward the schoolyard. Her throat tightens. Her daughter walked this route 20 minutes ago. She imagines the girl's boots landing in these same depressions, small prints swallowed by larger ones. She counts them with the practiced fear of someone who has done this before. Each print a calculation, a probability. But her pulse at her throat jumps like a ptarmigan flushed from cover. She looks up at the sky, gray, heavy, then scans the road twice more, the silence pressing in from all sides. Farther down the block, a Bear Patrol pickup idles, lights low, flares, crates, deterrent shells. The practiced arsenal of a town built around keeping predators at bay. In Churchill, your commute depends on whether the bears have moved on. But the cold that drives the bears here doesn't stop at forcing migration. It rewrites the rules of survival itself. A pickup truck idles in a driveway at 4 a.m., engine running since yesterday. Inside, its owner sleeps with one ear always listening. If that hum falters, the race to restart begins. This constant idling isn't wasteful. It's survival. A stalled engine out here isn't a tow job. It's a coffin. Key snap and locks. Door handles strip skin if you forget gloves. Block heaters snake from houses to truck grills. Umbilical cords keeping engines warm enough to turn over when needed. Step outside and breath crystallizes mid-exhale, hanging in the air like suspended glass. Eyelashes frost over in seconds. Exposed skin stings, then burns, then goes numb. Frostbite's countdown begins, silent and irreversible. Houses perch on stilts, for feet above the tundra. If foundations touch the ground, the heat from inside would melt the permafrost and swallow the structure by spring. Everything floats above its own warmth, suspended between survival and collapse. Churchill sits at the narrow bottleneck where forest meets tundra. Every October, polar bears migrate north along this coast, funneled past the town toward their hunting grounds. When the bay freezes late, they linger, pacing the edges of backyards, testing doors not built for claws. Beneath the surface, permafrost that once held steady for millennia now thaws each summer. Poles tilt, fences drift, foundations crack and sag, the land itself shifting under the weight of its own collapse. Doors stay unlocked. Someone might need to dive inside before frostbite sets in. Flares mark the sky when a bear is near. No one needs a radio call. The direction of the light tells you which streets to avoid. A teacher warns new arrivals. Don't go outside with wet hair. It freezes solid, and when you move, it breaks off at the roots. You only learn that once. Step outside unplanned, and Churchill reminds you who makes the rules. The town adapts through ritual and resilience. The cold, indifferent, endures. But in the spaces between frozen ground and human warmth, between isolation and endurance, community survives. Not in defiance of the cold, but because of it. Every day in Churchill begins with calculation. Temperature, wind direction, hours since sunrise. You think about batteries, whether your boots can handle another mile, whether the diesel line froze overnight. The town sits alone at the edge of Hudson Bay, reachable only by plane or the single rail line that floods each spring. When that line washed out in 2017, Churchill became an island for 18 months, cut off from everything but emergency airlifts. The rail returned, but the memory of that isolation never left. The rhythm of survival becomes its own comfort. Morning coffee brews while mittens dry above the heater. Small rituals anchoring the day. At the post office, people gather to see who made it in on the train, who hasn't been seen since the last storm. Doors stay unlocked not out of trust, but necessity. A locked door isn't privacy. It's a death sentence if someone needs shelter fast. In a place this cold, warmth isn't weather. It's behavior. No one here survives alone. Not through months of near darkness, when community becomes medicine. When the radio crackles with bear on the road, the response is instant. Not panic, but practice coordination. Within minutes, someone's driving slow loops to check windows while coffee brews for whoever got stranded. The town becomes a single organism. When there are no roads out, the only direction is toward each other. But beneath the routines and rituals, isolation still finds its way in. Then comes the silence, the kind that presses against windows and sinks into the mind, testing the limits of even the tightest community. Some fill it with old radios, the static and chatter of distant voices, keeping time when the sun sets at 3 p.m. and doesn't return for 18 hours. Others gather at the Seaport Inn, where the wood stove radiates heat and talk drifts to weather, ice, and the late supply plane. Laughter sounds louder here, not from joy, but defiance. The Martins left in 2019. Their youngest daughter refused to walk to school anymore. The fear had settled too deep. They made it 6 months in Winnipeg before returning. "We miss the quiet," Sarah Martin said, "and the people who understand why you choose this." Her daughter still checks windows before bed, but she walks to school again. When the sun finally breaks through after days of cloud, it feels like forgiveness. Elders sit on porches in full snow gear, soaking in what little vitamin D the winter sun offers. A medical necessity, not leisure. They're waiting for what the darkness hides. At night, the reward arrives. The aurora dances above the frozen bay in perfect, terrifying stillness. Green fire breaking the silence. Most towns shape people. Churchill chooses them. They come in convoys, tourists in brand new parkas, lenses fogging as they board machines built for spectacle. Tundra buggies rise on 6-foot tires, steel cages rolling across the white flats like fortresses. Inside, heaters hum, camera shutters click. From this height, the bears below look almost staged, living symbols of the wild, framed neatly through glass. Out here, the buggies crawl to the bay's edge, where wind cuts like wire and the wild begins. Every sighting earns a chorus of excitement. Every paw print another sail. The danger is the draw. The risk, the brand. Locals watch from porches and pickup windows. Among them, James Spence. He was 7 when his grandmother was mauled behind her shed. A story his family still carries like a scar. Now he sits with coffee steaming in the cold as a tour convoy rumbles past. Cameras flash from behind the safety of steel bars. No one waves. He just watches them go. "Their cameras don't see the scar on our porch," he says at last. "They see the money shot." He knows the town needs them. The tour dollars keep the grocery lights on, the fuel tanks filled, the school running through another long winter. But every dollar depends on keeping danger alive, selling the image of a threat no one can fully control. Down by the old radar station, a guide gestures toward a low, windowless structure, the bear jail. Tourists laugh, snapping photos of its sign. For them, it's a curiosity. For locals, it's insurance. The building hums in the cold, silent between encounters. This is Churchill's uneasy balance, a town surviving by monetizing the thing that stalks its edges. A place where danger isn't avoided. It's packaged, priced, and sold. Some call it resilience. Others, resignation. Everyone agrees on one thing. Without the bears, there is no Churchill. The bears start arriving later, but the true agony is the waiting they bring with them. Every year, the waiting starts earlier. The air cuts sharper. The light changes first. Locals scan the horizon for the first skin of ice, that thin white line where the bay begins to harden. It used to arrive by Halloween. Now, it's closer to Christmas, if at all. Without ice, the bears can't hunt. They linger onshore, pacing the gravel flats, ribs showing through their coats. Tourists have gone home. The hotels go dark. The silence isn't peace. It's tension, quiet and electric, waiting for something that no longer comes. At the research station, Dr. Lena Marcus notes another late freeze-up. In her log, bears tagged near the coast now wander inland, scavenging bins and sheds. They're starving slower now, she says, but starving all the same. Her tone isn't dramatic, just tired. Data fills charts. Memory fills the pauses between entries. The bay, once a promise, becomes a mirror. The reflection changes daily. Snow melting into slush, frost turning back to rain. Elders remember when trucks could drive across the frozen water to the old radar post by November. Now, gulls float where ice once held their weight. The radio chatter shifts, too. Less talk of sightings, more of shortages, propane, diesel, meat. One missed shipment or a grounded plane can unravel the rhythm of an entire winter. Thawing permafrost, once a slow menace, is now accelerating, softening the ground beneath the town, warping roads, tilting houses, and threatening the single rail line that ties Churchill to the rest of Canada. In Churchill, climate change isn't a headline, it's Tuesday. And still, there are nights when the aurora returns. the green fire rising over black water instead of ice. The beauty hurts now. What was once a reward for endurance feels like an alien signal, a spectacular warning painted across the wrong kind of sky. On the shoreline, James Spence stands beside his snowmobile, helmet off, listening. The bass still groans like something alive, but the sound is different, thinner, uncertain. Used to be solid by now, he murmurs. You could trust it. He doesn't say what everyone else knows. The trust is what's gone. When the ice doesn't come, the town doesn't stop. It just holds its breath a little longer. The ice fails, the bears linger, and planes come less often. Yet Churchill stays, not from denial, but defiance, woven quietly into routine. At the school, children draw polar bears beside their names on line paper. Their teacher, Marissa, keeps the windows sealed against the wind and talks about migration, not just of animals, but of people. Some places teach you to leave, she says. Churchill teaches you to endure. Every generation here has faced something that said go. The base closing, the railway collapse, the blizzard of '97 that buried trucks and memories in the same drift. Each time, they rebuilt, even as others said it wasn't worth it. And still, someone always stayed behind to prove them wrong. The town's heartbeat is small but steady. The hum of a generator, the cough of a snowmobile at dawn, the thunk of boots on frozen boards. Survival isn't cinematic here. It's practical. A shared gas can, a neighbor's spare parka, a message on the radio. Bear near the school. Stay inside. In summer, the tourists return. They see the same beauty, but not what happens between seasons. The town meetings where voices crack debating new docks or new fences. The silence between supply planes. The quiet phrase passed from one kitchen to another. We'll manage. And somehow they always do. At night, the aurora unfurls. Green ribbons rippling over houses half buried in snow. From above, it looks serene. But inside, the town breathes together. A single organism of warmth and willpower, holding its line between the wild and the human. James Spence stands on his porch again, steam curling from his cup. He looks north, where the bay should be sealed in ice, and murmurs, "We don't beat this place. We just belong to it." Pause. In Churchill, survival isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to stay anyway. And as long as lights flicker through the snow, as long as one person keeps watch by the bay, the town that freezes solid will never be frozen still.